Captain Alex stood in the dimly lit command center of the Earth's military fleet, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He was a skilled officer, known for his bravery and strategic mind, but nothing could prepare him for the call he had just received. The message was brief, only 2 words. Prepare yourself. It came from the highest-ranking official in the military, and it was unlike any order he had ever received. He had been summoned to an alien warship, but not just any alien. This was the Galactic Commander Zara, one of the most feared beings in the galaxy. Alex had heard of her before, and the stories were terrifying. Zara wasn't just a military leader. She was a living weapon, an advanced hybrid of technology and alien physiology. Her people, the Zorathians, had conquered countless star systems, leaving destruction in their wake. No one dared to oppose them. Alex couldn't help but wonder why he, a mere human officer, was called for this mission. He had been on many difficult assignments, but this felt different. There was something in the message that didn't sit right with him. As his starfighter docked with the alien ship, his heart raced. The ship was huge, its dark hull gleaming ominously under the distant starlight. He entered the warship's command deck, and the first thing that hit him was the cold, sterile air. There was no warmth here, only the metallic scent of technology and death. The bridge was silent, with only the hum of machinery echoing through the vast chamber. In the center stood Zara. She was more imposing than any story had ever described. Tall, athletic, her alien beauty radiating the deadly charm. Her armor glowed faintly with intricate circuits running through it, a testament to the Zorathians' advanced tech. Captain Alex. Zora's voice was smooth, commanding, and icy cold. You're here because I have a request. Alex stood at attention, trying to mask his unease. What is it, Commander? He asked, keeping his tone steady. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she took a step closer, her towering presence intimidating. Her piercing eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, Alex felt as though she could see through him. Then, without warning, she spoke again. I insist you inspect my body. Alex blinked, momentarily stunned by the bizarre command. Was this some kind of test? Was she playing a game, or was there a deeper reason behind her words? Zara's reputation had always been one of strength, not strange requests. But there was an unsettling calm in her voice, and the look in her eyes told him that she wasn't joking. He forced himself to focus, taking a step forward. Inspect your body, he repeated, trying to make sense of the situation. Zara's lips curled into a slight smirk. Yes, you will examine me. You'll find it enlightening. Alex could sense the tension rising. Every instinct in him screamed that this wasn't just about a simple inspection. Zara's kind didn't make demands like this unless there was something more at play. He glanced around the room, his eyes scanning the walls lined with strange technology he couldn't comprehend. What was she planning? Why him? He slowly moved closer, unsure of what to expect. As his hand hovered near her armored exoskeleton, he couldn't help but notice how seamlessly it fused with her skin, glowing faintly with energy. It was beautiful in a dangerous way. The technology was beyond anything he had ever seen, alien-made and far superior to Earth's own. I've never seen anything like this, he murmured, his fingers brushing lightly against the surface. The armor was not just protective. It seemed alive, reacting to his touch. It was almost as if Zara's body and the armor were one and the same. Zara's gaze remained fixed on him. You humans have always underestimated us. Your arrogance is your downfall. Her words struck a nerve, and Alex couldn't help but wonder if there was more to her statement than just an insult. She was testing him, perhaps to see how far he would go, how much humanity was willing to risk in the face of overwhelming power. As Alex continued his inspection, his mind raced. What could Zora be planning? The Zorathians were known for their superior technology and ruthlessness. Why would she want him to inspect her? And why was she so calm about it? Was this some kind of psychological test? Or was there a deeper, darker purpose behind this bizarre request? Suddenly, Zara broke the silence again, her voice low but filled with authority. You think you understand your place in this galaxy, Captain Alex, but humanity has no idea what it's truly up against. The Zorethians have conquered dozens of worlds, and yet you still believe you can stand against us. Alex's mind snapped back to reality. He looked up, meeting her gaze. There it was again, that quiet challenge. This wasn't just an inspection, it was a message. Zara wasn't just curious about humans. She was sizing him up, testing his resolve. The Zorethians wanted to know how far humans would go to defend themselves. But more than that, she was trying to get under his skin, to understand the human psyche. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the pressure of the moment. This was more than just a test of strength. This was a test of human spirit. I'm not here to inspect you for any reason other than my orders, Commander, he said, his voice steady. But I'll do what you ask. I'll inspect. I'll learn. And if you think your people are invincible, you'll learn something too. Zara's smile widened slightly, and for the first time, Alex saw a flicker of respect in her eyes. We shall see, Captain Alex. We shall see. The tension in the air was palpable. He had no idea what was coming next, but one thing was clear. This meeting was not what it seemed. There was more at play here, something far deeper, and he had just stepped into the heart of it. Captain Alex stood still, his fingers hovering above the surface of Zora's armor. The room seemed to close in around him, the strange hum of alien technology growing louder in his ears. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing on him, and his mind raced with questions he couldn't answer. What was Zora really after? Why this strange demand to inspect her body? Everything about the situation felt off, and Alex's gut told him there was more to this than just an alien officer showing off her technology. Zara watched him closely, her gaze unwavering. Her presence was overwhelming, a mix of power and precision. She wasn't like any leader Alex had ever encountered. There was a calmness to her that suggested she was in complete control. Even as Alex stood there, unsure of what to do, she remained as still as a statue, waiting for him to make his move. The silence was deafening, only broken by the occasional soft whirring of the ship's systems. What's going on here? Alex thought to himself. The request she made felt more like a test, something meant to break his composure, to see if he would crack under pressure. But why? What was her real goal? As he stood frozen, Zara stepped forward, her presence even more intimidating now. Her boots made no sound as she walked, her figure towering over him. The closer she got, the more Alex could feel the weight of the situation pressing on him. There was a power to Zara that was undeniable, a force that made even the most experienced soldiers feel like children. You've been called here because you're human, Zara said, her voice cold and calm. It sent a shiver down Alex's spine. I want to see how far you'll go to survive, Captain. I want to test the limits of your kind. Alex stiffened, the implications of her words slowly sinking in. Was she toying with him? Or was this something more? He couldn't understand what she meant by testing the limits of humanity, and he wasn't sure if he even wanted to know. But one thing was certain, he couldn't back down now. Whatever game Zara was playing, he had no choice but to play along. Zara turned her back on him, walking slowly toward the center of the command room. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Alex could feel the heat of the moment building, his heart pounding in his chest. His mind raced with 1,000 possibilities, but each one felt more impossible than the last. What could she possibly want from him? Look at your people, Zora continued, her voice echoing in the stillness. For centuries, you've fought for survival. You've built your cities, your weapons, your armies, but you've never faced an enemy like us. You've never had to fight for your very existence on this scale. Her words sent a chill through Alex's body. The Zorethians were known for their brutality, their iron grip on the galaxy. They didn't just conquer, they obliterated entire civilizations. The thought of humanity facing such a force was terrifying, but the worst part was that Alex knew Zara wasn't exaggerating. The Earth had always been safe, isolated, shielded by its own remoteness in the galaxy. But now, that safety was slipping away. "I'm not here to fight you, Zora," Alex said, his voice stronger than he felt. "I'm here to understand, to figure out what you want." Zora's lips curled into a smile, but it wasn't a comforting one. It was a smile full of secrets, full of promises of things to come. "You think you understand me, Captain, but you don't. You don't know what I'm capable of, what my people are capable of. And you certainly don't know what's coming." Alex's mind was spinning. What was she talking about? Was this some sort of twisted prelude to war? Did the Zorathians want to invade Earth? If so, why send him here? To inspect her body? The whole thing made no sense. Nothing about this situation felt like a military strategy. It felt like something personal, something far deeper. But what could it be? Before he could ask another question, Zora raised her hand, and the room around them seemed to shift. The walls hummed, and a series of holograms flickered to life, displaying scenes of alien worlds, barren and destroyed. These weren't just images of conquered civilizations. They were messages. Messages showing the full extent of what the Zorathians had done to the galaxy. Entire planets wiped out in moments. Massive fleets, like the one Alex was standing on, descending upon helpless civilizations. And in each of those images, the humans had been absent. There was no mention of Earth. "Do you understand now, Captain?" Zara's voice was cold, but there was an edge to it, something almost cruel. "Your kind is weak. You've never known true battle. You've never felt the real cost of war. I'm giving you a glimpse of that. A chance to prove you can survive." Alex's breath caught in his throat. He had always heard stories about the Zorathians, their conquests, their ruthless nature. But to see it firsthand, to witness the destruction they caused, it was unlike anything he could have imagined. The fear was overwhelming, and for a moment, Alex wondered if humanity could really stand a chance against such a force. "I won't be intimidated," Alex said, his voice trembling but resolute. "We've fought back before, and we'll do it again." Zora turned to face him, her smile widening. "We'll see, Captain. We'll see how long your bravery lasts when you face the full might of the Zorathian Empire." The tension in the room thickened. Alex could feel it, like a weight pressing down on him. Zara's words weren't just threats. They were a warning. A warning that humanity was standing on the edge of something far greater than they could comprehend. But he wouldn't back down. Not now. Not when the survival of Earth was at stake. As the holograms flickered out, Alex was left standing there, his mind racing. The Zorathians were unlike anything humanity had ever faced, and Zora's challenge was real. The war for Earth's survival had begun, but Alex knew that this was just the beginning. There were darker things to come, and the only thing he could do now was prepare for whatever came next. In that moment, Alex knew one thing for sure. Whatever Zora had planned, humanity would have to fight with everything it had to survive, and he was ready to lead that fight. The tension in the air grew thicker with each passing second. Alex stood, his mind reeling from what he had just witnessed. The images of destruction, the cold, calculating nature of Zora's voice. Everything felt wrong, like they were on the edge of a nightmare. He had always believed that humanity was capable of overcoming any challenge, that Earth had something special that no one else could match. But now, staring at Zora, he wasn't so sure. The holographic images of destroyed planets faded into nothingness, leaving Alex with an unsettling silence. Zora, the alien commander, stood in front of him, her posture straight and unyielding, as if she were waiting for him to absorb the horror she had just shown him. But he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Something deeper, darker was unfolding before him, and he had no idea what the next step would be. Alex finally broke the silence. "What exactly is it that you want from us, Zora?" "You're testing us," I get that. But why? What's your endgame here? His voice was steady, though his mind was filled with uncertainty. The last thing he wanted was to play into her hands, but he had no other choice. He needed to understand what the Zorathians were planning, and more importantly, why they were focusing on Earth. Zora's eyes glowed for a brief moment, her expression unchanged. She stepped closer, her voice low but deadly serious. You misunderstand, Captain. This isn't a test. This is a warning. Humanity is about to be caught in the crossfire of something much bigger than you can comprehend. The Zorathian Empire is not concerned with mere conquest. We are on the verge of something far more catastrophic. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Her words were heavy, each one laced with a sense of impending doom. He couldn't let himself be intimidated, but the fear was undeniable. Was she talking about a galactic war? Something worse than anything he had imagined. What do you mean by catastrophic? Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the fragile calm in the room. Zara's lips curled into a slow, deliberate smile. You see, Captain, the galaxy is at a tipping point. For centuries, the Zorathian Empire has played a delicate game with the other races, maintaining a balance of power. But all of that is about to change. There's a force, something ancient, and far more powerful than anything you've ever encountered. And it's coming. Alex felt the air leave his lungs. He couldn't process what Zara was saying. What could be more powerful than the Zorathian Empire? They were already a force to be reckoned with, feared across the galaxy. If there was something more dangerous, more terrifying than them, humanity didn't stand a chance. But there was something in Zora's tone, something that hinted at a deeper truth. She wasn't afraid of it. She was preparing for it. What force? Alex asked, his voice stronger now, even as his mind raced with possibilities. What are you preparing for? Zara's eyes glinted, a dangerous spark lighting up her gaze. A force beyond even our understanding. A being, or perhaps a race, that has been dormant for millennia. And now, they're awakening. And when they do, they will not care for the survival of your pathetic little planet. The words hit Alex like a slap in the face. His mind couldn't grasp the implications. Zara was talking about something ancient, something that had been lying dormant until now. What could it be? Some sort of godlike being. An alien race that had been hidden away. The possibilities were endless, and each one was worse than the last. Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. This is why we need you, Captain. Humanity's survival hinges on your willingness to cooperate. If you refuse to help us, well, the consequences will be catastrophic, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Alex felt the weight of her words settle over him. This wasn't just about Earth. It wasn't even about the Zorathians. This was something much bigger, something that could destroy everything. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival against a single empire. They were up against an ancient force, one that had the power to wipe out entire civilizations. Help you? Alex repeated, incredulous. You're asking us to join you in whatever this is. What's the plan, Zara? What do you want us to do? Zara's expression softened, but only slightly. It's not about joining us, Captain. It's about survival. We can't fight this alone. The Zorathian Empire might be powerful, but even we can't face this threat without assistance. And that's where you come in. Alex's mind spun. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Zorathians, who had enslaved entire civilizations, were asking for help. He couldn't reconcile the Zara standing before him with the image of the ruthless conqueror that had been drilled into his mind. Something didn't add up. There had to be more to this than she was letting on. What's your real plan, Zara? Alex asked, trying to pierce through her cold demeanor. If you want our help, why go through all of this? Why test us like this? What's the real reason behind this request? For the first time, a flicker of hesitation passed across Zora's face. It was brief, but it was there. She was hiding something. Alex could feel it in his gut. The truth, she began slowly, is that the Zorathian Empire is not ready. We are preparing, but we are not ready for what is coming. I've seen the power of this force. It doesn't leave room for mistakes, for hesitation. And if we don't act now, everything we've built will crumble. The weight of her words sank into Alex's bones. He could feel the urgency in her voice, the desperation. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about saving everything. The entire galaxy from a threat that was far beyond their comprehension. We're not just facing a war, Captain, Zura continued, her voice low and grave. We're facing extinction. And if we don't work together, we will all fall. The room grew colder as Zora's words echoed in Alex's mind. The twist of fate was clear now. The Zorathians weren't the true enemy. The real enemy was the unknown, the ancient force that was awakening, and humanity had no choice but to stand against it, whether they were ready or not. In that moment, Alex realized something he hadn't fully understood before. The fight for Earth's survival was just the beginning. The true battle was about to begin, and it would take everything humanity had to survive. The room was thick with tension as Alex tried to digest the overwhelming revelation Zara had just laid before him. The Zorathians, the most powerful empire in the galaxy, were scared. They were frightened by something so ancient and so terrifying that even they felt helpless in its wake. Zara, the cold and calculating commander, had shown him the truth that Earth was facing a threat unlike any they had ever known. Alex could no longer think of this as just a fight for survival. It was a fight for everything. The future of the galaxy, the future of humanity. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. His mind raced, but one thought stood out clearly. Humanity had to fight back. There was no other choice. But where did they start? How could they fight something that was so beyond their understanding? Zara had said the Zorathian Empire wasn't ready for what was coming, and that meant the Empire's strength alone wouldn't be enough to stop it. Humanity had to play a role in this, and Alex was about to find out just what that role would be. Zara, Alex said, his voice firm and clear, if we're going to stop this, we need to be ready. But how do we even begin? How do we fight something that is so far beyond us? Zora's eyes softened for a moment, and Alex saw a flicker of something else. Was it hope? She stepped closer, her voice low and intense. We don't have much time, Captain. The force that is coming is ancient and powerful, but it is not invincible. There are ways to fight it, ways to weaken it, but it's going to take everything we have. Alex nodded, determination flooding his veins. Then we'll give everything we have. Zara seemed to consider him for a moment before she spoke again, her words deliberate. We have technology, advanced weapons, cloaking devices, AI systems, but we need something more. Humanity has an energy, a spirit that we have not seen in any other species. That's what gives you the strength to survive where others fail. I've seen it before. That's why I came to you. But we must act quickly. With her words, Alex understood. It wasn't just about weapons or technology. It was about humanity's resilience, its refusal to give up no matter the odds. That was the one thing Zura believed could make the difference. But how could they harness that strength? How could they turn their spirit into something that could stand against this ancient threat? He didn't have the answers, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't do it alone. They couldn't do it alone. The humans had to come together, to fight as one. And that's when Alex realized the first step in fighting back wasn't about the weapons or the strategy. It was about uniting humanity. He needed to rally the people, to get them ready for what was coming. It was time for Earth to fight back, to stand up for its survival, and to show the galaxy that they weren't just a small, insignificant planet anymore. They were ready for whatever came next. I'll do whatever it takes to get humanity prepared, Alex said, his voice full of conviction. But we need to start now. We can't waste any more time. Zara nodded, her expression serious. "You're right. I've already set up a meeting with the top commanders from various factions of the Zorathian Empire. We'll need their help if we're going to stand any chance against what's coming. They will not be easy to convince, but if we can rally them behind our cause, we might have a shot." Alex wasn't sure how he felt about working with the very people who had threatened Earth. The Zorathians were not known for their diplomacy or their kindness. But Zara had a point. If they were going to fight an ancient force that could wipe out entire civilizations, they would need every ally they could get. The fate of the galaxy depended on it. Within hours, Alex found himself aboard the Zorathian warship, preparing for a meeting that could determine the fate of everything. As he walked through the halls of the ship, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The ship was massive, filled with advanced technology that he could only imagine in his wildest dreams. But the sight of it didn't fill him with awe anymore. All he could think about was the coming battle, the war that was about to start, and the people who would have to fight in it. The meeting was set in a large conference room, with Zora leading the way. She took her seat at the head of the table, and Alex followed, sitting opposite her. The room was filled with several high-ranking Zorathian officers, all of them silent and watchful. It was clear that they weren't used to having humans in their presence, and the tension in the room was palpable. Zara wasted no time. She stood and addressed the room. "We are here because Earth is our only hope. The threat that is coming is beyond anything we've ever faced. We must work together if we are going to stand any chance of survival." The officers exchanged skeptical glances, but Zara's voice cut through the tension. "I have seen what humanity is capable of. They may be inexperienced compared to us, but their spirit, their determination, is unmatched. We need that spirit. We need them on our side." One of the officers, a large Zorathian with dark scales, scoffed. "You ask us to trust these primitive creatures. They're nothing more than ants to us." Alex clenched his fists, but Zara raised a hand to calm him. "You've seen the records. You know what humanity has done. They've survived wars, disasters, and worse. If anyone can fight back against this force, it's them." The officer glared, but he didn't speak again. Zara's words seemed to have made an impact. The room was quiet for a long moment before one of the officers stood, her voice cutting through the silence. "Fine. We will work with them, but they will have to prove themselves. We will give them a chance." It was a small victory, but it was enough. The battle for Earth's survival had officially begun. As Alex left the meeting, his mind was spinning. They were taking the first step, but it was only the beginning. The fight was far from over. They had the Zorathians on their side, at least for now. But there was still so much to be done, so many questions left unanswered. How could they prepare for a force that was beyond their comprehension? How could they convince the rest of humanity that this battle was real, that they needed to unite and fight? Alex didn't have all the answers, but he knew this. Earth wasn't going to back down. Not now. Not ever. The atmosphere was heavy with grief as Alex stood in the command center, looking out at the fleet of ships assembling in the distance. The Zorathians had joined forces with humanity, and Earth's warships were preparing for the fight of their lives. But despite the technology, the plans, and the weapons, there was something that weighed more heavily on Alex's heart than anything else. He had been through battles before, but nothing like this. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about the survival of the human race, and he couldn't shake the feeling that things might not end the way they hoped. Zara's words echoed in his mind. "We're going to need everything we have, Alex. Every bit of strength, every bit of courage, every bit of sacrifice. We can't afford to hold back." But that's what scared him. The idea of sacrifice. What would they be willing to give up to survive? Was it going to cost them everything? The more he thought about it, the more it seemed like the true cost of victory would be far higher than they could imagine. As the hours passed, Alex couldn't stop thinking about the soldiers under his command. Bonner, one of his most trusted men, had been by his side for years. They had fought together through thick and thin, facing threats and dangers from all sides. Bonner was a tough man, but there was something in his eyes now. Something that told Alex he wasn't sure if he was going to make it through this war. The stakes were higher than anything they had faced before, and not everyone would make it out alive. That thought weighed heavily on Alex. "I don't like this, Captain," Bonner said, his voice low as he stood next to Alex. His eyes were tired, and his usual cocky demeanor had faded. "We're taking on a force we don't fully understand. I've seen people fight. I've seen people die. But this is different." Alex placed a hand on his shoulder. "I know, Bonner, but we don't have a choice. We either fight or we lose everything. We'll be fighting for our homes, for our families, for the future. We're not just soldiers anymore. We're the last line of defense." Bonner nodded slowly, but the doubt was still there, lingering in his eyes. Alex understood. They had both seen too much, lost too much, to simply brush off the danger they were facing. It wasn't just the aliens they were up against. It was something far bigger, something that could destroy entire civilizations. The human spirit, however strong, was no match for that kind of power. Or so it seemed. As the fleet prepared to launch, Alex received the worst possible news. Bonner had volunteered for a dangerous mission, one that would require him to infiltrate an enemy base. He would be going in with a small team to gather intel, but the chances of making it out alive were slim. It was a mission that could change the tide of the war, but at a tremendous cost. The team would be going in with nothing more than basic equipment and a vague understanding of the enemy's defenses. It was a suicide mission. "Alex, I need you to understand," Bonner said, his face serious. "I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. I've seen what this enemy can do. I'm not going to sit back and wait for them to destroy everything we've built. I have a family. I have a reason to fight, but I also know what I'm getting into." Alex couldn't bring himself to argue. Bonner's decision was made, and nothing Alex said would change that. It wasn't about duty anymore. It was about personal responsibility. Bonner knew the risks, and he was willing to face them for the sake of everyone else. Alex admired that bravery, but it also tore at his heart. The mission began just hours after Bonner's announcement. Alex watched the shuttle carrying his friend lift off into the sky. He felt a sense of helplessness that he couldn't shake. No matter how much they prepared, no matter how much technology they had on their side, war was still war. There was always loss. There was always pain. But this time, the cost felt too high. The next few days were a blur of activity. The battle for Earth had begun. Warships engaged the enemy forces in space, while soldiers fought hand-to-hand in cities that had once been peaceful. But amidst the chaos, there was an unmistakable feeling of dread in the air. Something was coming, something worse than they had anticipated. The Zorethians' fear of the ancient force that threatened to consume them all seemed more real with every passing hour. Then, the communication came. Bonner's team had been ambushed. The mission had failed, but Bonner wasn't dead. He was captured. The news hit Alex like a punch to the gut. His heart raced as he listened to the message, his mind racing for a plan, any plan, that could save Bonner. But there was no time. The war was escalating faster than anyone had predicted. The enemy was getting closer and Earth's defenses were starting to crack. They needed to win, and they needed to win fast. Alex couldn't focus on the mission anymore. All he could think about was Bonner, the friend he had fought alongside for years, the man who had volunteered to make the ultimate sacrifice for the survival of the human race. Alex knew there was no way he could leave him behind. He had to rescue Bonner. It was the right thing to do, no matter the cost. He gathered a small team of soldiers, some of his most trusted men, and prepared for the rescue mission. They would have to infiltrate the enemy's stronghold, face unknown dangers, and somehow bring Bonner back. But Alex knew what the real cost might be. Even if they succeeded, even if they got Bonner back, they might never make it out alive. The odds were slim, and Alex knew that. but the chance to save his friend was worth everything. As they set out on their mission, Alex couldn't help but think of the sacrifice Bonner had already made, and the sacrifice he was now willing to make himself. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight for the heart and soul of humanity. The price of victory, Alex realized, would be measured in the lives of those willing to give everything. And as he and his team crept deeper into enemy territory, he couldn't help but wonder how much more they would have to lose before this war was over. The final battle had arrived, and the tension in the air was palpable. The fate of humanity hung in the balance as the Earth's warships, now reinforced by their alien allies, faced off against the overwhelming force of the AI-controlled fleet. Alex stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching as the battle unfolded before him. It was a sight to behold, ships darting across the sky, beams of light flashing as they exchanged fire, explosions lighting up the dark expanse of space. But for Alex, this wasn't just another fight. This was the moment everything would change. This was the final stand. The Zorathians had been valuable allies, their advanced technology a key advantage in the battle. But even with their help, it seemed impossible to overcome the might of the enemy. The AI fleet was vast, far larger than anything they had anticipated. The enemy's ships were faster, better armed, and controlled by an intelligence that knew no fear. It was like fighting an invisible force, an enemy that was always one step ahead. But Alex didn't have the luxury of doubt or fear. He knew the stakes were too high. He couldn't afford to hesitate. "We can do this, Captain." Zara's voice cut through his thoughts, her hand resting firmly on his shoulder. She was standing next to him, her expression determined but calm. Zara had been a constant source of strength throughout the war, and Alex knew that no matter what happened, she would never give up. But he also knew that this battle would test everyone's limits. "Just don't let them get too close," Alex replied, his voice tense. "If they break through our defenses, we're finished." Zara nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. But even with the best technology and the most advanced strategies, they were still up against an enemy that seemed unbeatable. The AI fleet moved with precision, launching waves of ships that targeted Earth's most vulnerable spots. The battle was chaotic, every moment filled with danger and uncertainty. Alex's mind raced as he analyzed the situation. There was no time to waste. He had to make a move, and he had to make it now. The only way to win this battle was to strike at the heart of the enemy's control, destroy the AI's central hub, the source of their power. It was risky, and it would require all the strength and courage his crew had left. But it was the only chance they had. "Prepare to launch the strike," Alex ordered. His voice was firm, though his hands were shaking slightly. This was it. There was no turning back now. He looked around at his crew, seeing the same resolve in their eyes that he felt deep in his chest. They were in this together, and they weren't going to let anything stop them. The countdown began. The ships were in position, ready to launch the final assault. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he gripped the command console. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. The sky around them was filled with the lights of battle, green and red beams, explosions, and the deafening sound of ships firing. But in the midst of the chaos, Alex could see it. The enemy's central hub, the massive structure floating in the center of their fleet. If they could destroy it, they could bring the AI to its knees. 3, 2, 1, now, Alex shouted. The fleet moved in, launching a barrage of missiles and energy blasts at the central hub. The air was thick with tension as the attack hit its target. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deafening explosion, the central hub erupted in a blaze of light. It was as though the entire universe had paused for a single breath. The shockwave rippled through the battlefield. And for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. But then, the AI fleet began to crumble. The ships, once perfectly coordinated, started to veer off course. They were losing control, their systems short-circuiting as their central hub was destroyed. It was working. The enemy was falling apart. However, the victory came at a great cost. As the enemy fleet faltered, one final wave of ships broke through Earth's defenses, launching a direct attack on the flagship. Alex watched in horror as the enemy ships bore down on them, their weapons primed and ready to destroy everything in their path. "Brace for impact," Alex shouted as the bridge shuddered under the force of the incoming attack. The room erupted into chaos as alarms blared, and the crew scrambled to defend the ship. But in that moment, Alex knew it was over. They had given everything they had to win. And now, all they could do was hope they survived long enough to see the victory they had fought so hard for. The explosion rocked the ship, sending a shockwave through the command center. For a moment, everything went dark. Alex felt the weight of the situation press down on him, the cold grip of fear settling in. He could hear the voices of his crew shouting, trying to restore power and defend the ship, but it all felt distant. He wasn't sure if they were going to make it. Then something unexpected happened. A second wave of human warships, led by Zora's own ship, arrived just in time. The reinforcements launched a series of devastating attacks on the enemy, causing the remaining ships to break apart. In a matter of minutes, the battle turned in their favor. The Ai's fleet, once so powerful and overwhelming, was now a smoldering wreckage in the vastness of space. The final blow had been struck. Humanity had won, but the cost of that victory was high. The flagship was heavily damaged, and many lives had been lost. Alex's heart ached as he thought about the soldiers who wouldn't make it home. Bonner had been one of them. The mission to rescue him had failed, and Alex had lost his closest friend in the battle. But despite the pain, despite the loss, there was a sense of triumph that filled the air. Earth had survived. Humanity had fought back against the overwhelming odds and defeated the AI threat. It was a victory they would never forget, a victory that came at a great cost, but one that would shape the future of the galaxy. As Alex stood on the bridge, watching the remains of the enemy fleet drift through space, he knew that the war was over. But the true challenge was just beginning. Humanity had proven its strength, but it would have to rebuild, heal, and carry the weight of the sacrifices made. The battle had been won, but the scars would remain.